back to Morbid, Michigan. I have a really sad story that I want to bring to light today. My main purpose is to keep the memory alive and hopefully bring some kind of answers. Nevaeh Buchanan was just 5 years old when she was killed back in 2009. This brutal and heartbreaking story has stuck with the community, not just because a young life was taken, but because her killer has never been found. It's a question that haunts the community, a question asked by a mother who has lost her child, by a town that has lost its peace, and by every person who wonders what happened to Nevaeh. YouTube videos, Facebook groups, and Reddit threads are filled with people who remember Nevaeh. If they didn't know her, they remember exactly where they were when they found out that she had been murdered. And hearing about this horrific crime, there is a resounding hope that one day the killer will be brought to justice. So today I'm going to explain everything that we know leading up to Nevaeh's disappearance.
I think everyone holds out hope that justice will be served. I don't think anyone ever wants to hear those words, cold case.
On June 4th, 2009, 3 fishermen stood at the edge of the River Raisin, just off of Dixon Road, with their rods cast into the water hoping for a bite. The river is a familiar haunt in Monroe County. It meanders lazily through the landscape, its waters running shallow, often choked by weedy growth. But for those who know the river well, they know that the trick is to look beneath the surface, to search for the deeper pockets where catfish, walleye, and bass make the cool waters their homes. Wild grapes once clung to the banks of the River Raisin, with vines twisting and curling around the trees, giving the river its name. The French settlers who first explored the area called it La Rivière aux Raisins, or the river with grapes. The river banks now hold a much more sinister secret. 51-year-old Guy Bickley, his 15-year-old son, and his elderly stepfather, Lowell Kirk, noticed something strange. Cement was sticking out of the ground, and a horrible smell wafted through the air. They went over to investigate, knowing that something seemed off. There was no reason for there to be cement in that area because it was only used for fishing. Bickley was overwhelmed by the smell, and he noticed more flies than usual buzzing around in the air. As they began to investigate and pull back the dirt, the 2 men halted in dismay at their discovery. A piece of concrete broke off, revealing human skin lying underneath. A young girl's body was lying in a shallow grave. The man called the police immediately, who rushed to the scene and recognized the shirt that the girl was wearing. It matched the description of what Nevaeh Buchanan was wearing the last time anyone saw her. This little child never made it to kindergarten. Not a day goes by that I don't think about Nevaeh, said Bickley. Jennifer Buchanan is the last known person to ever see Nevaeh alive. At just 24 years old, Jennifer was Nevaeh's biological mother, but not her primary caregiver. Nevaeh's father, Shane Hinjosa, was not in the picture, and hadn't seen the little girl in 3 years by the time she went missing. Her dad, Shane, was 17 years old when she was born, her mom, 19. Nevaeh had actually been adopted by her maternal grandmother, Sherry Buchanan, because Jennifer had a lot of problems at the time. Jennifer was a drug addict before spending 11 months in prison for first-degree home invasion. Jennifer had only been released a few months before Nevaeh went missing. When she got out, Sherry let her daughter move in with her at the Charlotte Arms apartment complex, now called Sterling Point Apartments, so she could get back on her feet. While Sherry worked her job at the grocery store during the day, it was Jennifer's job to watch Nevaeh for a little while. On May 24th, it was a Sunday. Jennifer's friend and her young daughter were both staying over. The group was all sitting around watching TV, but Nevaeh told Jennifer she was bored and she wanted to go play with her friend Austin. Austin was an 8-year-old boy who lived in the apartments upstairs, and he and Nevaeh would often play together. After a little while, Nevaeh came back into the apartment to change her clothes, and she got a popsicle. Jennifer was thinking about what to make for dinner, and although Nevaeh said that she wasn't hungry, her mother knew that she needed to eat soon. Nevaeh wasn't wearing any socks or shoes, but she was wearing a light blue shirt with red and white stripes and jean shorts. She left again, and Jennifer assumed she was going back upstairs to play with Austin. Jennifer's friend's daughter went out to go play, but after about 30 minutes she came back inside and told Jennifer that Nevaeh was riding her scooter in the road. Sometimes little kids who lived in that apartment complex would call the parking lot the road, so Jennifer wasn't too concerned about her necessarily getting hit by a car, but Nevaeh was supposed to be upstairs with Austin, not out on her own. so she got up and began searching the apartment for her shoes, with plans to go outside and give the girl a good talking to. It's not clear how long this took her, but eventually Jennifer made her way out to the parking lot. She expected to hear the familiar sound of plastic wheels on concrete as the little girl would speed along as fast as her little legs could push her on her scooter. Nevaeh was nowhere to be found. Jennifer began searching all around the complex, but came up with nothing. It's impossible to know what was going through her head at the time, but if I had to guess, a gut-churning combination of fear and guilt. She called 911 and her mother, Sherry. "Mom, Nevaeh is gone. I can't find her," she said on the phone. Sherry could hardly believe it. "Jen, if you're lying to me, I'm going to kill you when I get home," she told her daughter. Sherry says she left work and sped home fast, blasting through every red light on Telegraph Road. She beat the police, reaching the scene before even officers arrived. Her daughter wasn't lying. There was no trace of the little girl that she helped raise.
Almost 100% sure that she got snatched. That it was just so quickly that I don't think, I know that she had to have put up some kind of fight, because she is loud if she screams. She is loud when she screams, but I really don't. I think they put their hand over her mouth, maybe put her in the back, something. I have no idea, and I really don't want to think about that.
It wasn't long before helicopters went up. K-9 units were deployed, trying desperately to sniff out Nevaeh as soon as possible, because the first 24 hours after a person goes missing are critical. Most children who are reported missing are found within 2 days. However, the likelihood of finding them decreases quickly day after day. A little after midnight, police issued an Amber Alert. Radios, TVs, and even cell phones sounded the alarm to the community that Nevaeh was missing. Police searched all 180 apartments at Charlotte Arms. The city of Monroe took the national spotlight as news outlets across the country seized the story of the missing child.
Take us through the last moments that you were with Nevaeh. What happened?
The last moment that I was with my daughter.
The last few moments, yes.
She come in the house, she changed her clothes. After she changed her clothes, she said that she was going back upstairs to her friend's house.
As the investigation got underway that night into the next morning, officials made some unnerving discoveries. It turned out Jennifer was friends with 2 men, both who she had dated at some point. And both men were registered sex offenders. This immediately raised red flags for the investigators, and both men were arrested for parole violations, as they were not supposed to be around children. During the time these men had been in a relationship with Jennifer, they had spent time with Nevaeh as well. It's worth noting both men were named persons of interest, but not suspects, and never faced charges in the case. While many people speculate as to their involvement in Nevaeh's murder, so far I've not seen any evidence that ties them directly to it. Naturally, when you hear sex offender and little girl missing in the same sentence, you want to point the finger. However, no matter someone's past, they are innocent until proven guilty. But like I said, both men violated the conditions of their parole. Police obtained a search warrant for a hotel room where 39-year-old George Kennedy lived. They also searched his vehicle. Officers found a bloody towel, a multi-tool with blood on it, and photos of young girls inside. It's not clear the nature of these photos, but to my knowledge, the photos themselves were not at all explicit in nature, because that would have been a crime itself. But it was disturbing that the sex offender was in possession of them. Despite how suspicious these items seemed, there was no direct connection to Nevaeh. While the blood did belong to a human, the DNA was not a match either. Where it came from, Kennedy did provide some pretty believable excuses. He said he cut himself on the multi-tool while fishing, and he said that the blood on the towel came from his new girlfriend, not Jennifer, someone else, getting a tattoo, and it started bleeding a little bit. Police began to question the kids who had been playing outside close to the time that Nevaeh went missing. One child said she went to the nearby woods to meet with Daddy George, and another child said that Nevaeh had been kidnapped by a bad man. However, the mom of the child who said she had been kidnapped by this Daddy George person disputed that claim and said that the child had come inside by that time and couldn't have possibly seen anything like that. Also, it was determined that Nevaeh died from suffocation, not stabbing. So these conflicting statements from children raised more questions than answers. Was one of them telling the truth, or were they just repeating rumors that they heard their parents saying? Investigators were torn, but the clues were too important to ignore. George Kennedy was taking a polygraph, and he actually failed portions of it. He was seen as a strong suspect by the police and the public, but there was no evidence to charge him with any crimes related to Nevaeh, other than his parole violation. The other suspect police arrested on a parole violation was 48-year-old Roy Lee Smith. Jennifer had dated Smith as well, but had only known him for a couple of months. Jennifer says she did not know for a fact that Smith was a sex offender, but she was aware that he had met Kennedy at a counseling class, and she assumed that he was also a sex offender. She would be correct. Smith was convicted of criminal sexual conduct in the 3rd degree for raping a woman back in 1991. Smith owned the van that Kennedy was believed to have been driving, and the two men had a history of trading vehicles. Smith offered the van up to Kennedy in exchange for his Thunderbird, and the two agreed to make the swap. The evening that Nevaeh went missing, however, Smith had an alibi. He told the police that he drove his friends to the county inmate dorm, went to a motel, and to a gas station. Smith was also never charged in Nevaeh's murder. 64-year-old James Easter was the 3rd suspect, often seen at the Charlotte Arms apartment complex. Police accused him of following Jennifer and Nevaeh home from Kmart the day that the child disappeared. Easter had a girlfriend named Janie Austin who lived at the Charlotte Arms apartments. There's no clear evidence that's been released, to my knowledge, indicating whether or not he followed Jennifer and Nevaeh that day, or if this was just a tactic that police used to get him to say something. So he offered to let police search his home. While police found a large collection of pornographic movies, they failed to find anything incriminating. Officers took Easter for a long questioning, but in the end they couldn't find any reason to keep him. He had an alibi, including receipts that gave a timeline of where he was at throughout that day, which wasn't really near where Nevaeh was taken. Minutes later, after they dropped him off, they found him in the backyard burying a strange variety of items. Receipts, frozen TV dinners, and a sex toy. Officers immediately arrested Easter on arson charges because they were alarmed. They were like, what was he burning? But he was later let go. At this point, we have 3 persons of interest, but no actual charges in the case, and still no sign of Nevaeh. Police told neighbors to be on the lookout for a green minivan that had been spotted in the parking lot. It was not known to belong to anyone who lived there. One man who was visiting his sister at Charlotte Arms claimed to have seen a little red car speed out of the lot at around 7 that night. A woman who lived in the apartments says she saw Nevaeh messing around by some cars in the complex when she went missing. Still, neither of those details helped police figure out where she could have gone. Nevaeh's father, Shane, traveled to Michigan from Ohio, where he was living. Monroe isn't that far from Toledo, but he was taking a big risk here because he had warrants out for his arrest due to unpaid child support. He and his family helped in the search. Shane was quick to point the finger at his child's mother, claiming this never would have happened if he had custody of Nevaeh.
I'm sick. I don't want to believe that she had something to do with it, but I mean, if she did, she deserves what she gets. She needs to spend time in jail, and this would never have happened if she was in my custody a long time ago.
Not a day goes by that I don't think about her. I want justice for Nevaeh more than anyone.
Those who had never met Nevaeh would soon come to know her face and name very well, as flyers were posted all over Monroe and news stations picked up on the story.
I just want to plead to whoever has her just to bring her home so she can have her babies back.
Within less than a week, students at the nearby Airport High School wore yellow shirts and hung yellow ribbons on their lockers to raise awareness and show support for Nevaeh, as the search teams worked to try to find her. On June 4th, Nevaeh's body was recovered from along the shore of the River Raisin. She was buried in ready-mix cement, and police think that whoever put her there used water from the river to activate the cement. Police held a press conference the next morning, letting everyone know that the search for Nevaeh was over, but the search for her killer had just begun.
It is a very sick or disturbed person we're looking for. A person that is able to abduct and murder an innocent 5-year-old child.
Near the river site, police found a few items: an empty Busch beer can, a cigarette butt, and an empty 90-pound bag of cement mix. I haven't been able to figure out exactly what brand that cement mix would have been, but it was likely Quikrete. People gathered to pray near the river site, which had become a memorial for Nevaeh. A few days later, the Monroe News published Nevaeh's obituary. It read in part, "Nevaeh had a smile that could warm a room, a personality that could tame the wildest heart, and a love for life that was only second to her love of family." Nevaeh was an excellent student. She enjoyed every day at preschool and had recently graduated from the Discovery Preschool Academy at Cantrick. She could often be found spending time at the playground or hanging out with her new best friend, Austin. She thought that she was hot stuff while driving her Power Wheels Escalade or riding her scooter. Even at the age of 5, Nevaeh enjoyed the sound and look of a motorcycle. Nevaeh Buchanan, age 5, of Monroe, was delivered safely into the arms of her savior. Her family mourns her loss, but she has gained her wings. Now, 2 years later, a playground in Monroe was dedicated to Nevaeh. It was designed to be a safe haven for kids, allowing parents to keep a close eye on their little ones while they would be able to play.
I think remembering her for something like, a child going to preschool in her honor, or a child being able to get a Christmas gift in her honor, is much better than someone remembering her as a little girl buried by the riverside.
Today, Nevaeh's case is still open. The Monroe County Sheriff's Office insists this is not a cold case, rather an investigation that is very much active. Officers say her file is always on someone's desk. Nevaeh is always on someone's mind. Her aunt continues to advocate for justice, creating a Facebook group that still has members posting to this day. For a long time, flyers could be spotted around Monroe, confronting the killer with the message, "How can you sleep at night knowing what you did to me?" Though we don't have answers, we can still hope that one day someone will speak up and Nevaeh's family will finally get the justice that she deserves. Thank you for watching. If you have any information, please call the Monroe County Sheriff's Office at 734-240-7000.